Coach, obviously we've seen the development of Derek Fountain play out in games of late. How are Anderson Garcia and Keandre Montgomery coming along in practice?
They don't get a lot of practice time right now, 5-on-5, because we play. They're the next two. They get some, but not a ton. And right now, this time of year, it's all about preparation for opponent and preparing for opponent. So, it's limited, unfortunately, for them. They still get individual workouts, and they're getting up shots and doing things everybody else does. But in terms of the 5-on-5 play, it's a limited number because typically it's Derek and Cam, Jalen, and DJ at the wings, along with Iverson and Davon at the point.
We'll go ahead and swing it over to Garrett Hodge. Garrett, go ahead.
Hey, Ben. Asking about Derek specifically, what year in high school was he when he first appeared on your staff's radar, and what was it about him that specifically drew you to want to recruit him?
His junior year, we started recruiting him, and you could see he had a real nice skill package for a guy with size. He was a kid that grew up playing guard position more than big because he had a late growth spurt. And so he was a guy that, because of that, had good guard skills. We were really fortunate to get him. I mean, he was down the road going to a prep school this past May, June, and what a fortuitous thing it was for us to be able to get him to come here. Especially as you can see now, he's going to be a real good player for us.
Garrett, did you have a follow-up?
And then just asking about Vanderbilt specifically, obviously a very tight game with them last time at their place. What do you hope to maybe, use from this last matchup to this game? And then what do you hope to improve on from the last time you played these guys?
I watched that game yesterday, the first time we played them, and it was a 1-point game at halftime, very tight game. They're a scary team because they're playing really good right now. Their last 4 games, have been all really tight games. They lost at Florida in a 7-point loss against a really good Florida team where that thing was a very close game all the way through that game. They beat South Carolina prior to South Carolina going down to beat Florida right after that before we played them and beat South Carolina badly. I mean, they had them down 18 in the first half at halftime. Ended up winning the game by 12, but it was really a 20-point game most of the second half. And then they played Georgia in a 1-possession game in the last 30 seconds. They had a chance to win at Georgia, ended up losing by 2 or 3, something like that, because of a foul. But they could have won. I think Pippen took a shot that ended up being blocked with about 15, 17 seconds left that could have put them up. And then they lost to Auburn in their last outing at home by 6 in a very tight game. So they're playing really well. They're very dangerous because they're as good a shooting team as there is in our league. Everybody can shoot the ball for their team. When you look at, Pippen and Dessou are 2 of the best players in our conference. Pippen is really, really a special player in that he's a great passer, a great scorer, and a great shooter. Makes good decisions, gets to the line, shoots high percentages both from 3 and from the field. Has a good assist-to-turnover ratio. He's got 51 assists, I think, in 9 games that he's played in conference. So he's a very good player. Dessou has equally impressive stats. Look at his 40% plus from 3, very high field goal percentage, very good rebounder, block shots. I mean, he's really talented. But the other guys, you saw the South Carolina game, Maxwell Evans had 28 or 30. Really played well. He's shooting like 46% from 3 in conference. Really, really dangerous. I remember a year ago he had 30 against LSU and went home against LSU. And he's a senior, so he's got that, added emphasis of this is my last go-around. I want to do my very best. And then Jordan Wright's playing really well. And then they come off with Studi, who's a good shooter. The kid Harvey's a very good shooter. They're very talented. The little Thomas kid who had 17 against us in the first game, number 12, I think he is. Very small, slight of build, but very skilled and can really shoot. Everybody can shoot, so they're a very difficult team because they stretch the floor so well with all those guys that have the ability to shoot.
We'll go to the TV side. John Sokoloff. John?
Hey, Ben, how would you say your guys have kind of responded since the LSU game? What's kind of been the mood like with everyone?
You know, we had a good practice yesterday. Normally on a Wednesday game for a Saturday noon game, we wouldn't normally tape and go full contact, but because of how we defended and our need to work on our transition defense, we went for about an hour and 10 minutes yesterday, and it was really good. It was very spirited, and guys played extremely hard, and so I was very pleased with that, and I think that was a positive thing. Anytime you play that poorly defensively, you got to get that taste out of your mouth, and the best way to do that is get back to the court and compete. And they did that yesterday, so that was a positive. We'll practice again here in about an hour or so, and I expect to have another really good practice.
And a quick follow-up there from that. You mentioned a lot how young your guys are. How would you kind of assess how they've grown, like, throughout the season has gone? Because obviously I'm sure you've been around young players a lot in your career, and you kind of see the trajectory of how they grow. How would you assess kind of this group with its youth?
Yeah, I think our guys are doing a good job. When you think about first-year players, I was thinking about it last night, trying to sleep. Tolu's playing really for the first time major minutes in a position he's never played before, at the power forward position. Then obviously you have the freshmen, like Davon, Cameron, Derek. All three of those guys played major minutes. Quentin is like in his first year. He didn't play at all last year. He wasn't strong enough, and he's developing well. I mean, all those guys I just mentioned, those five guys, are all showing really good positive developments in terms of their growth as players, and so I'm very pleased with them. And then I think we're still young when you look at the two sophomores, DJ and Iverson. They've had great years, and they've developed a lot, and they're much better. So even though it doesn't show up as much as I'd like it to be in the wins and losses, I definitely know we're getting better, we're improving, and we're building.
We'll swing it back to Paul Jones. Paul?
Coach, along those lines, and speaking of Tolu Smith, what steps have you seen him take over the last couple of weeks in SEC play?
I think the best thing he's done, Paul, is he's improving. Throw the LSU game out of it for every one of our guys, but he's improved a lot defensively. He's a much better defensive player than he was because he's been having to match up with like stretch fours. He's having to guard guys like Watford. Again, Dessou is going to be his matchup tomorrow for a lot of the game. He's really a three playing the four who can shoot threes from the perimeter. That's a hard matchup for 6'10", 245 Tolu Smith, and he's doing a very good job of it. But he's learning how to help more, how to be in gaps, how to talk. He's definitely getting better in that respect. And I think he's become a much better player in terms of handling the ball and learning the game. He's been a center his whole life, and he's been asked to play with a lot more skill at both ends of the floor this year in a really good league.
I know, I think we've asked you this before, and I think it was in the preseason, but with this year not counting against guys' eligibility, have Abdul or Jalen talked about possibly coming back, or do you expect them to move on?
That'll be a discussion we'll have it after the season's over. I mean, that's the end of the year when it's over. I mean, they'll both have, options, and, for Abdul, who's been here now, he's, trying to figure out what he will do with his life. I think that's something that, is on his mind because he's a foreigner, and we would like to have him be able to stay here in this country and eventually be able to get his green card so that he can be part of our society. And what a great kid for all you guys that know him and know what a wonderful young man he is and just what a great person. I would love to see that happen eventually for him.